So, so far we were building the foundational skills for the RAP, which was the concept of CDS, which is Core Data Services. Core Data Services. So, in the introduction itself, I was given a point that was without having the proper understanding of CDS, you cannot build a single RAP application as well. You cannot build it. That much of importance you will be having for the CDS view. So before we coming into that, what is RAP, what we can do that, how the ABAP got evolution can be happened a day by day. If you see in the initial level of ABAP, we have a classic ABAP programming. So in that we will be having module pool programming. So where you can design our own screens. We have PBO, process before output. Whenever user perform any action, so we are going to return down those particular code in the PAI, which is in the process after input. So if you see the controls in the module pool programming, we have limited controls. Text, input field, radio button, checkboxes, push button, table control, tab strip, custom control. Like this, we have limited set of controls. By replacing this, SAP is coming up with SAP Fiori. So in that, to learn the SAP Fiori, we need JavaScript. As I said in many of my classes, we need JavaScript for the application logic. For the backend data, SAP has implemented OData, or you can generate an OData service from the CDS. These things we were seeing. This is how the applications are created before a RAP was introduced. Before RAP was introduced, this is how the applications are created. Now RAP is coming into the picture. Now you can just understood creating an auditor service in the backend, again going into the BTP, creating an Fiori application, how much manual effort it required. By replacing this RAP itself, it generate RAP itself, it generate API. API means it's an auditor service, and it also generate Fiori app as well. That is the beauty. Before we coming into the architecture of RAP, so firstly, I will tell you what is a RAP, what we can do with this. RAP stands for RESTful Application Programming Model. RESTful Application Programming Model, which is used to development of OData services and Fiori apps. To create a minimum to minimum RAP application, we need your S4 system should be 2021 release is compulsory to create RAP based application. There is no sense called as we can create a wrap application in the ACC to support this root entity. The first layer in the RAP application, which is a root entity. So to support that, we need your S4 system should be 2021 release if it is on-premise. Now, when it comes to the BTP ABAP, so where it is available, so that means where can I develop my RAP applications, which is in the BTP ABAP environment. So where you can create an ABAP environment in the BTP and you can call those into your Eclipse. So which is the trial account which will be available in the 3 months of period. Now in the S4 systems it is available when it is the on-premise. Now it is based on the CDS, as I said, core data services. When the need of a custom logic is there, and again completely it's an ABAP based custom logic. Whenever you want something extra to be implemented which we don't have in the standard functionalities, and again based on ABAP based logic only, but how it displays in the application level, it is using the SAP UI5 only for the design of the interface, only for the layout of the interface of the application. So this is a little introduction. Now, before we coming into the architecture, so let me taking you to the evolution of ABAP, how ABAP got evaluated. Firstly, what are the common needs as an ABAP developer we used to have? Creating some application logic. If the client is asking CRUD operations, and we used to retrieve the data and performing some validations in the selection screen. And if they're asking the lock objects you're implementing, these are the general kind of needs as an ABAP developer we used to receive in the ABAP projects. And you listen this from the so many people, ABAP is becoming obsolete, don't learn this. I would say ABAP is not becoming obsolete. ABAP is updated day by day, my dear. ABAP is updated from SAP GUI to Fiori. From SAP Fiori, now the current market, or not the current, you can say it is slowly evolving. From the Fiori, it is evaluated to SAP Joule. To SAP Joule. SAP Joule is the AI tool in the SAP where you can integrate with your SAP system. This is how ABAP got updated. It's not obsolete, my dear. It's not obsoleted. Now, what are the challenges we faced as an ABAP developer? It requires different way of thinking. Need to adapt existing code. High maintenance effort. Lack of standardization. Different coding practices. There is no unique or unified standard approach. So that means, for example, I have a team. In my team, I have 4 different ABAP developers. I'm assigning the same task to the entire team, to the 4 ABAP developers. Those 4 ABAP developers can achieve the requirement. But, for example, Harsha is the ABAP developer who achieves the requirement. But as the developer changes, the way how the code is changes. I can have some way of pattern of code. Bhavya is having some way of pattern of code. Jyotsna is having some way of pattern of code. So that means as the developer is different, different coding practices you are seeing. Different coding practices you are seeing. Okay. Now, so that means there is no unique approach. There is no unique approach, my dear. For example, particularly if you got into the support kind of a project, most of the support kind of a project issues should be so your existing report or existing development changes. There somebody has built it. Now they are coming up with a small change. You need to put some extra logic in that. So firstly, as an ABAP developer, the first duty, what do you have to do? Firstly, you have to adapt existing the code which have written, right? Existing code which has written. So then only you can make the changes in that. Without adapting the existing code, how we can make the changes? Okay. These are the challenges we faced as an ABAP developer. Every ABAP developer we have. As the strategic long-term solution for ABAP development, for the development of Fiori apps and web APIs is nothing but an OData service, and it offers the end-to-end development experience with high development efficiency, best practices and development guidelines, unique way of code. So whatever the different way of coding practices we were seeing in the ABAP side, but we don't have something similar in the RAP side, because let's say, for example, I have to return some message into my Fiori app. To return message into the Fiori app, we have a reported parameter in the app. No matter the developer, my dear, no matter the developer, he has 10 years, 20 years, even he is a fresher to learn RAP, it doesn't matter. They have to fill reported parameter, then only it return to the UI level. So that means unique standard approaches will be there. There is no different coding practices will be there. So whatever the disadvantages are, not the disadvantages, we can say challenges we faced as an ABAP developer, we used to resolve those in the RAP side. Okay. As we know, the user experience will be SAP Fiori, okay, and SAP HANA, which will be flexibility. Now, So in this I will explain greenfield, brownfield. Before that, I will go into the architecture level. This is how RAP applications are built. This is the architecture for the RAP. So before we coming into the RAP architecture, firstly we will talk about the SAP architecture, presentation layer, application layer, database layer. But the question is, are we able to see in those layers practically? Definitely not. But the beauty of RAP architecture was we can able to see. For example, the first layer is data modeling and behavior. So that means if you create a CDS view, those will be stored in the data model. So which is data definition. If you create a behavior definition, it will create a data definition, which is a data model. And similarly, if you create a service definition, those will be you can see in under the folder of business service. Any of the you can create. So that means the RAP architecture, you can able to see those in the very practical manner. In the very practical manner. Okay. So now first is CDS data modeling. In that we have to build our data models. It's not just building of our data models. While building the data models, you have to know a few of the things. The data model, which is a collection of different CDS entities which is involved in a business scenario. For example, sales order header and the item, parent and the child relationships, those things. And thus, in the data model, we have the concept of root entity, my dear. If I has the single entity, it doesn't have any problem. Root entity is one of the CDS template how we will be having like view entity and define view. The first part of an RAP application was to build root entity is the first step. A root entity is the starting point of a business object. As I said, whenever you have parent and child or a single entity, all your logic part should be done in the root entity. Once you build a root entity, you are just building the data model. As we know, in the RAP, it's not just only to create a data model because it's also involving in the app level. It's also involving in the Fiori app level. Once you build your root view, the next thing is you have to build projection view. This projection view will be created based on root view, my dear. Whatever the root view we created, we have to create a projection view. Why we have to create a projection view if we create on the root view? See, a root view you can keep for the logic purposes. Projection view you can keep it for the only to expose into the UI level. For example, in my root view, I have retrieve 10 different fields. That is not compulsory to expose all the 10 fields in the UI level. That you want to show or hide, you want to display or hide, you want to enable or disable, completely that can be handled in the projection view, my dear. That can be handled in the projection view. Projection view, keep your projection view only to expose into the UI level. So that means whatever the UI annotations is there, whatever the fields you want to expose, how you want your Fury app should be, you can consume in the projection view, my dear. Okay. Once you build data model, which is root view and the projection view, the next thing is, it is not compulsory, which is a behavior definition. So before we talk about that, we have two different types of an applications in the app. One is read-only applications. Second one is transactional applications. Read-only applications are the applications you cannot have the transactional capabilities like create, update, delete. If your requirement is only to have a read-only application, you don't need this root entity also. Without root entity also, we can create RAP application, but you are not allowed to apply transactional capabilities like create and update and delete. Those will be available in the behavior definition. This behavior definition will be created on the root entity. This will not be created on a normal view entity. That is the difference. If you have the transactional capabilities, you have to prefer the root entity. If you don't want, I just need a read-only application just to display the data, and that time you don't need. Whenever you want the transactional capabilities, then only you need behavior definition idea. While creating a behavior definition, we have two types of behavior definition. One is managed, second one is unmanaged. If it is a managed, everything does by the framework. So you can compare with the ABAP. If you wanted to perform insert, update, delete operations in the ABAP, we need to go for some custom logics part, right? But when it comes to the RAP, it doesn't seem like that. If you want, you can maintain the logics part, but that is not compulsory. If it is the managed, it does by the RAP framework. For implementing the CRUD operations, you don't need to implement any piece of a code. But whereas in the unmanaged, it's a developer implementation. Developer who has to written down logic to implement those. Okay. Now, for example, we have the concept of 𝐵APs. We have the concept of 𝐵APs. If I have to integrate 𝐵APs with the RAP, so that means the create, update, or delete can be handled with respective 𝐵APs. If I implemented managed application, how can I implement the 𝐵AP? Because I don't have permission, I don't have availability to add extra piece of a logic for the CRUD operations in the managed scenario because it does framework. I am not doing it. But when it comes to the unmanaged, I am the developer who involving in that. I can write the code in that. So that means in the unmanaged, everything is developer perspective. Everything is custom. You have to implement. It is similar to the ABAP. When it comes to the managed, everything is automated. Okay, everything is automated, my dear. And if you want to consume some extra actions, some validations you need to be performed, some default values you need to be performed, everything you have to create, you have to written down your custom logic in the root behavior definition. Now we will also having the projection behavior definition. Keep your projection behavior definition only to expose into the Fury level. Let's say I have defined my custom action. I have implemented it in my interface behavior definition. Interface behavior definition will help you only to enable the functionality, but that does not help you to expose into the UI level. In that time, expose those into the projection behavior definition. Projection behavior definition. That is the behavior definition, which is data modeling and behavior. The next layer is after building this, you don't need behavior definition and implementation for compulsory as an RAP application. But if you want, you can take it if you want any transactional capabilities like that. Now, next, after you building the root view and projection view, directly you can go for the business service section. Okay, this is not compulsory to create a behavior definition for our RAP application. Okay, now if you check the first layer in the service, sorry, in the business service, which is service definition. Let's say if I build parent and child relationships in my root and the projection, but that is not compulsory to expose into the UI level. What are the entities I have to expose into the API and OData level or in the Fury level, which defines the service definition, my dear. Where we are defining our UI annotations or UI, how our My Fury app has to be in the projection view. So that means you have to expose projection view as a in the service definition. Whatever the entity you are exposed, those will be captured as an entity set name, my dear. As a entity set name. Okay, all your entities you have to expose into the service definition. What are the entities I have to expose in the OData and Fury level? Once you build the service definition, as I said, RAP itself, it indicates for the service binding. Service binding, it includes the what you wanted to create, whether you wanted to create an API, whether you wanted to create a Fury app, what you wanted to create, okay, what you wanted to create. The service binding will be created based on service definition, based on service definition. In the service definition, we already expo what are the entities. We already define in the projection view how my Fury app has to be. So that is completely an interlink with each other, every layer, where I have to keep my logic, where I can expose which entities I have to expose, what entity I have to create, like that. While creating a service binding, we have two different types of versions will be there. One is OData v2, second one is OData v4. We have so many differences will be there. Let's say if I talk about at least one difference in the OData v2, once you're doing the behavior definition, you got a single selection. So that means a radio button you got. If it is in the OData v4, you got checkboxes. So that means multiple selection will be there. And if you talk about the second difference, on changing itself, if I want to trigger some value, OData v2, it's always triggered on the save sequence. It is not triggered on the changing sequence. But when it comes to OData v4, it will be triggered. This is the second one. Third one is we have file upload integration in the app. So that means directly I can upload my Excel file, PDF, image, whatsoever the media file I have. So that is not available in the OData v2, that is only available in the OData v4. The remaining differences as we gone into RAP side, you will be able to know this. Okay. So this is how it will be. There is a template called as root view entity. So in this, we have, this is how it will be. See now, composition association, whenever you have parent and child. So whatever the necessity you have, you are defining in this. Now you can preview this, you will get the data. After this, you have to create a projection view, which will be exposed the required fields and the associations into the Fury level. See now in the projection view, I am exposing, see now there is a template called as define projection view. So now you can see here. So all the annotations, how my Fury app has to be there. I'm defining those into the projection view, all the UI annotations. Now, once you build that, next is service definition. As I said, behavior definition is not compulsory when you want to create an app application, which entities you have to expose. Now, you can see here service definition, it's one of the thing. Okay. Now we are exposing our consumption view, which is our projection view as a trip data. So whatever the alias name you are taking, those will be captured as an entity set name. So once you create service binding, okay, service binding. See now I'm highlighting this service definition. This is the service binding. Service binding will be created based on this service definition. Now you can see here this service definition, sorry, this service binding. Now you can say OData v2 UI V2 Web API, V4 UI, V4 Web API. V2 UI means it's a OData V2 version and app as well. It will generate OData V2 service and application. If you select the OData V2 and Web API, it will create only OData V2 with OData version only. It will not generate Fury app. So OData V4 UI, V4 version, API and OData API and Fury app. If it is for the OData V4 Web API, you can go for the V4 only. It will generate Web API. For example, recently I worked on a hackathon. So in that, they need RAP-based OData services. They don't need Fury apps because in the Joule, so they are integrating with this RAP-based API. In that time, you don't need EUI, right? You just need an API. So in that time, we generated OData V2 Web API. Okay, this is how it will be. See now, it will be once you publish. So your entity set name. See now, whatever the alias name you are taking with the script data, so those will be available. You can test your OData service in the browser level, and you can able to see the data. Okay, this is just an introduction. Tomorrow we will be starting up with the practical part of it. Okay, the practical part of it. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Are you joining from laptop today?
No.
Okay. So please join tomorrow with the laptop.
Sure.
Okay, and share your screen, and I'll show you how you can do all this setups part.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, when you'll be sharing all these documents, like that you are referring, right?
Yeah, today I'll share. I forgot to share that.
Okay. Sure. Thank you.
Upload in the Google Drive, you can get some.
Okay.
Thank you.